Hello, I'm your favorite sexpert, the Erica Rivera, and you're watching Sexpertise, the sex positive educational show where we aim towards keeping marriages exciting and single people safe. Today, we're going to be discussing the world of leather and bondage wear and their role in empowerment, fashion, and intimacy. Our special guest is a self-taught leather worker based in Chicago who specializes in handmade bondage wear, crafting custom leather pieces that celebrate every body and fosters confidence through bold self-expression. Please welcome Emma Alamo. Hi, Emma.
Hi, how are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
So, I love that you're on the show today. This is a topic that doesn't get spoken about too often, at least in my neck of the woods. So, thank you for joining us. First thing I really want to ask is what inspired you to start creating handmade leather harnesses, and how did you develop your brand as a queer woman-owned business?
Right. I kind of stumbled into it when I sorry. Off to a bad start.
It's totally cool.
Start over. All right. I kind of stumbled into it. I started working with leather. The first thing I made for myself out of leather was a utility belt because women's clothes don't have pockets and it's rude and I can't keep track of a purse. So I made myself a utility belt when I was like in my early 20s and then wore it every day forever because I can't lose my keys and phone if they're attached to my body. And then in my late 20s, I decided to start an Etsy store selling them. So that was the plan, was making like, cool femme utility belts and jewelry. And I was just messing around with leather and made myself a couple chest harnesses, which were just things I wanted for myself, and then posted some pictures online and immediately got a lot of interest in them. So I kind of kept making more. And then within 6 months, it was all I was making.
6 months. That's not a
Yeah.
whole lot of time.
No, it's not. So it wasn't ever what I set out to do, but it just kind of took off. And it was something that I really enjoyed doing. And yeah, it became my main thing really quickly.
Wow. And I actually read you were in carpentry during this time.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a theater carpenter for most of my 20s. So I feel like I picked up leatherworking pretty quickly because it's similar to wood in a lot of ways.
Wow. Yeah, I like that. So your brand, I noticed it prides itself on making custom pieces for everyone. So
hmm
does it matter body type or body shape? How important is body inclusivity to your work, and what has been the response from your clients?
It's so important to me. I like many women in the US, I grew up with an eating disorder, and I feel like a big part of that is that in the media we only see one type of female body being depicted as sexy. And so like as you're developing a sexuality, you sort of get the impression that to be sexy, you have to look a certain way. And I hate that. And
Yeah.
I feel
Me
like we're
too.
seeing a lot, yeah, we're seeing a lot more, like just even in the past 10 years, uh, images in media of women who do not have like one specific body type. And it's really, it's really like incredible and kind of emotional to me, because I wish I grew up in a world like that. And so that has always been super important to me to show all sorts of different types of bodies being sexy because all bodies are sexy. All people, like most people have sex,
Yeah.
uh, and most people have a sexuality and have like sex appeal and sexual attraction regardless of what they look like, but we only see it depicted in one way.
Yeah, no, and I love that because you make these harnesses and these accessories for male, female, like it doesn't matter the gender or that representation, correct? So,
Yeah, we do lean more towards femme designs, I would say, and a big part of that is that it's kind of underrepresented in the leather harness scene. I feel like most brands are catering towards like more masculine gay men. So
yeah.
we sort of fell into that, we sort of developed within the niche of making things that are more femme and less like, beefy, rugged, like fuck
Totally understand.
harnesses, like stuff that you can use for bondage, but is still has a little bit of a more femme edge to it.
Yeah, I mean, I've even noticed too, even in looking for the one I'm wearing now, which is one of your designs, I do notice that there's a lot out there for basically like the masculine, um, you know, homosexual type like style.
It's like the same
Like,
bulldog harness over and over
yes,
again.
yes,
Yeah.
over and over. And I'm like, "Well, but I want something." So I was like really pleased to see that you had petite harnesses too, because my issue is pretty much the opposite. I'm a very small person, and so a
Hmm.
lot of things always run big on me. And this is just amazing. So thank you. And it does make me feel really extra when I put it on. Like it dresses up any outfit. So kudos as well as far as like the confidence, that the leather
Yeah.
work can bring in. So speaking of that, what do you think about leather and bondage gear that like what do you think it is about that empowers people, especially in the queer and kink communities?
Right. I mean, I think it has definitely a long history within the queer community. Um, and I feel like today it is often you see people wearing bondage gear as fashion. Um, and it has sort of become a way of flagging,
Mm,
you know? Um, like some of our covert cuff, for example, which is it looks like a bracelet and then it like turns into a restraint device. But I feel like that has become a thing that a lot of people will recognize in the wild, even when it just looks like a bracelet, and then sort of, be able to make that connection or recognize that in someone, which
almost
has become really fun to me.
like you're one of us sort of
Yeah,
thing.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. It's so funny because I posted a picture in this harness on my business page, and someone's like, "What does that have to do with sexual health?" And I was like, "Okay, you're not one of us." Like,
Yeah.
so
And I
that's
mean,
so
there's
funny.
there's all sorts of different ways like to wear leather. Like some people truly just wear it for the aesthetic, for like the way that it looks or like the way that it feels, like for the way that it makes them feel wearing it, not for like any function within sex.
Right.
But then there are like the bondage functions for it. Being able to use it as a restraint device, basically just like being able to use it as a means of like adding more handles to someone's body, so it makes it easier to manipulate someone, to move someone around. And then, obviously we make strap-ons too, which, allow people who don't have penises to have sex with a penis.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that you made those.
Oh
I
yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, because I think when we met and I visited your vendor booth, I really was so focused on the fashion aspect because
Hmm.
I've been wanting one of these forever. And it's really hard to find real leather, like people that work with real leather. Because I had bought one probably off Amazon, and I was like, this
Hmm.
flimsy thing, I can't. Like, so that's great to know that you also make harnesses for strap-ons.
Yeah.
I really love the idea of the cuff as well. Is there anything like from the custom-made pieces that you've made? What are some challenges and rewards of creating one of a kind gear for your clients?
Right. I mean, it definitely takes more time and resources to do custom sizing, which we do for no extra charge. And But I guess like the thing is, most people don't fit into a sizing chart. Sorry, hang on one second. I just realized I did not bring my plug let me grab my
Okay.
plug. I'll be right back. Okay, you are getting the full authentic ADHD experience here today.
No worries. Welcome back. So, we
Yeah,
were talking about the challenges as well as the rewards of creating one of a kind stuff. You mentioned not everyone fits into a sizing chart.
yeah, I would say that most people don't, it turns out. And every single time it comes up that like we could work more efficiently or produce things faster if we didn't do custom sizing. I'm like, well, I don't fit into the sizing chart, then I wouldn't even be able to get anything from here. And I don't want to be like producing something um, that excludes people like that because I don't know. I don't fit perfectly into a sizing chart, and I have trouble finding clothes because of it. And I feel like people have tend to have like intimate connections and feelings about their like bondage wear, and just the little bit extra it takes to have something that is made specifically for someone's body goes a long way.
It really does. I mean, they'll remember that and they'll come back to you for that reason.
Yeah.
So, do you ever make anything that's not something, I guess, in your catalog, so to speak? Like, have you gotten requests that maybe you didn't have?
Yeah, we do. And for the most part, these days, we don't do custom requests, uh, but we will do like customizations on existing designs. And sometimes those customizations end up like end up becoming part of a design that we sell. Like, for example, the harness that I'm wearing, someone asked to have this harness, this like bra shaped harness. They wanted a pull point on the back that they could attach a leash to.
Okay.
And then I added one, and
Oh,
I liked the way it turned out so much that it just became part of the design.
yes, I
And
love
that's just
that.
how it's made now. And so, yeah, it is helpful to like hear from people like how they're using it or what they would want to be different, because we do sometimes end up incorporating that. But for the
Okay.
most part, we only do like super custom from scratch designs. If it's a huge order, like I've made a few custom things for people to wear at their weddings. I recently made this couple in California. They had a vanilla wedding and then they had a kink ceremony. And they had me make like full get-ups for both of them to wear at the kink ceremony, and the pictures were incredible.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. Oh, we have to show some of that off later because that's so
Yeah.
great. So, when we first met at Dark Odyssey, and you were venting, I was presenting, how do you think events like this influence your work? And how do you balance the artistic side as well as like the business side with your activism and representation?
Yeah. Um, the kink events like that are great because nothing is shocking to people there.
Yeah.
We vend at all sorts of things, all sorts of different markets, and the ones that are not specifically kink oriented, people will be slightly scandalized by our stuff sometimes, or they'll like, sneak up and take a card and then scurry away because they don't want to be seen uh,
Aw.
shopping with us. Um, but at events like Dark Odyssey, it's great because everyone comes there on the same page and nothing is taboo and people are comfortable talking about what their interests are and what they're looking for. Um, it's also just an environment where people are doing sort of their most wild and imaginative kink scenes. So it's sort of so we hearing about that and seeing the ways that people use our harnesses ends up being like some excellent feedback.
Yeah. Yeah. I bet you look forward to that feedback. I mean,
Oh yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, are there any other events that are pretty prominent that you vend at?
Yeah, so we're currently getting ready for our biggest event of the year, which is why I'm so chaotic today. Folsom Street Fair out in San Francisco is in a week and a half.
Wow. Okay, so
So
you travel, so you're based in Chicago. I met you in DC, so I'm guessing
yeah,
you travel quite a bit.
yes, yeah,
Love it. Love it so much. What is, wow, that's in a week. What
yeah.
is anything else that you want to add and tell our audience, whether it's about your brand or about your feelings on this as far as like body positivity and inclusivity?
Yeah, something that occurred to me when we were talking about the strap-ons that I forgot to mention, but like I had before I started making leather bondage gear, like I had a strap-on that I bought at a sex toy store, and it had a function, but it didn't make me feel hot. Like it wasn't flattering. Like it didn't make me feel good in my body. It did the job of like holding a dildo to me. So like the first strap-on I designed, I was like,
Yeah.
I want it to be high waisted. I want it to have like these, like I want it to like sort of have the effect of lingerie of like making me feel hot in my body while also being like a super functional strap on that like you don't need to like use your hands, like it actually holds it in place. So I feel like a lot of our designs sort of come from finding that midpoint of style and function.
Yeah, that's such a good point. There's not a lot of I used to, before I became fully a sex educator who did presentations, there was a time where I sold sex toys. And I found that a lot of toys are not super sapphic or like lesbian friendly.
Yeah.
So that's really frustrating. I'm glad that you brought that up. I actually I remember we had this product to which it was like boxers that had a holder and it was for
Hmm.
like a soft packer, something that you could wear like out and about. But the placement of where the ring was and where the soft packer should be just didn't quite make sense because it's like
Yeah.
it's technically outside of the boxer and I was like, like it just doesn't, yeah.
Yeah.
So, so I totally get what you mean by that. A lot of accessories are just not lesbian friendly, or at least the ones that I've come across, even
Yeah.
as someone who has sold those items before. So that's really awesome that you do that. That's great. So you don't really have to buy things. You just make what you need.
I mean, that is where a lot of our designs came from, was me making something that I wanted.
Love that. Love that
Yeah,
so
and I
much.
feel like what you were saying about the design of of the strap-on boxers, I feel like you can tell when something is designed by someone who uses it
Hmm.
because it's more thoughtful.
Yeah. Well, I feel like that's how it should be. I know I'm no longer with that particular company, but I saw that in a lot of the accessories that I was selling is I was like, it doesn't seem like whoever designed this is actually someone who utilizes this.
Yeah,
So, that's why I think I'm such an advocate for small businesses just because 9 times out of 10, if it's a small business, that person came up with such idea because it was either something they needed or something that they utilized before making it a thing. So
yeah.
I think that's really important. This has been an amazing conversation. I'm going to add your website up here. Please tell us more about your web, where we can find you on socials, all that good stuff. And if any of our audience has questions, where they can contact you.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we have a website. It's emmaalamo.com. We are in a never-ending battle with social media because our stuff gets taken down all the time because Instagram hates women. I think it's just what it comes down to. Whenever we post images of like masked people wearing harnesses, it's fine. But when we post pictures of women and especially fat women wearing harnesses, they always get flagged and removed.
No
It makes me
way.
insane. Yeah, it's a thing. I have a whole video about it. But we actually just started a new Instagram
Okay.
because our old one, we got to a point where we can't post anything without it getting removed. So our new Instagram account is at Shop Emma Alamo. We're also on TikTok at just Emma Alamo, one word. And yeah, you can find us on our website. We post about the events we're vending at. Like we said earlier, we're traveling a lot, vending at different conventions and fairs. But we do have our full catalog online, and there is a contact form on the website where people can reach out if they have any questions.
Fantastic. And that actually surprises me a little bit about Instagram because I thought like I'm on Insta and TikTok. TikTok has flagged me before for stuff, but I haven't been flagged yet on Instagram.
So TikTok, here's my read on it. TikTok flags indiscriminately. Anything sexual gets flagged.
Yeah.
But Instagram picks and chooses,
Okay.
which makes me so angry because I get ads for lingerie. I get ads for bondage gear. I get ads from companies that have ripped off our designs. And the difference between their account and us is it's all like skinny, usually white, hairless women. And that is not considered obscene by Instagram's standards, but but the stuff that I post on more diverse body types
Yeah.
sounds all of the alarms.
Now
So
I'm gonna pay more attention to
yeah,
that. Yeah, you're right though. TikTok just kind of flags anything. I actually
yeah,
had like one of my I was on a live and I brought down my like vagina puppet and was like, oh, like I was like showing the vulva and like TikTok just like whoop, just like shut off my stream and I
yeah.
was like, oh, that sucks. So,
So offensive. Nothing more offensive than a vulva puppet.
I'm sorry, anatomy.
It's
Like,
it's
okay.
wild. Yeah.
And actually, before I let you go, I did forget to ask, because we didn't discuss couples too much, but have you had couples utilize your harnesses or come to you like as a couple? We don't talk too much about, relationships and how these items can enhance someone's relationship.
Yeah. So it's funny that you asked that because at the beginning of like for the first year of the pandemic, strap-on sales skyrocketed for us. And I think a lot of couples that were isolating together, or like poly people who were suddenly faced with just having one partner, everyone was trying new things, you know?
Yeah, I bet that
Uh,
was actually a great year for you.
it was. Yeah, at the beginning of the pandemic, I was like, there's no way my business is going to survive this, but everybody stayed horny. So, so it didn't end up being that big of a problem for us. But I've also, I've had couples reach out like where the dominant one is smaller than the submissive one. So having like I said earlier, these harnesses like add handles to your body, so it makes it easier to like dominate someone and move someone's body and like have the feeling of being bigger and having more control over them. I've had couples reach out to me for that before. Um, and for all sorts of like specific modifications.
I love that. I love that you also cater to the poly community as well. And
Yeah.
yeah, same about COVID. I thought that it was going to be really bad for me, but again, people stay horny. Sex is
Yeah.
not something that goes out of business. So,
Yeah, for sure.
especially there was a lot of people that were far apart from each other. Like I got calls from people that were either like military or couldn't come back home or
Yeah.
stuck in a different place, so had to figure things out virtually. How can we stay intimate virtually and all these things? And honestly, virtual in a harness, I mean, that's a nice visual. So
Yeah.
it's like it's crazy how it doesn't matter what industry you're in. I mean, there's very few industries I find that you cannot tie into sexual health somehow. Because I've interviewed, lawyers, I've interviewed all kinds of people on this show, where you would think, what does this have to do with sex health? And it does. And there's always a way to tie it in. And I'm just so excited that I got to have you to talk more about this. I have a lot of viewers who had who have messaged me about this because they've seen my harness. And some were confused. They were like, I don't know what this has to do with sex health. And others were very curious. And that's like the main thing on this show is I want people to stay curious and be informed. So I appreciate you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. Hopefully, we can have you again someday. And to the audience, like I always say, please stay curious, stay informed. And this time I'm going to say, stay horny.
Hell yeah.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye.